What's up, guys? Crypto Muser here with your daily news and analysis in the crypto markets. Now, we're starting to see a momentum shift in this market, and we've heard people call for alt season as of late. And I think that there are some factors that I'm looking at that are really pointing towards that alt season that is going to be, monumental. I think this is going to be one of the biggest alt seasons we've ever seen, just because there's so much money in the market still, and these alts have really been beat down so hard in the last couple of months. Obviously, following Bitcoin, but in this video today, I want to break down some of the factors I'm looking at that are telling me that this altcoin season is going to be insane, and I believe that XRP is going to be one of those leading altcoins that are going to lead the way in the coming months. So before I get in the video, guys, if you guys could please like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below, would be very much appreciated. But let's get right into it. So I have the Fear and Greed Index pulled up here, and if you've been looking at the Fear and Greed Index, which you should on a weekly basis or so, we've obviously been sitting in fear for the last about 4.5 months now, right? I think I saw it as low as about 12 or 11, a couple months ago. But, basically sitting here in the fear, and then recently finally hitting that greed. I think we hit about 65 or 60 or so. You're seeing the confidence coming back in this market. You've seen Bitcoin kind of breaking some of those levels, 45,000, 47,000. And it's bringing some confidence back into the market. And how the market works, we all follow Bitcoin, right? If people have confidence in Bitcoin, then they start to see confidence in the altcoins. So you're starting to see some of these altcoins start to really go on their own, which is a good telltale sign. So if I pull up the coin market cap here, and you look some of the weekly gains, right? You see Solana up about 36%, Luna up about 27%. A lot of big gainers on the week. You didn't see any of this in the last 4 months. A lot of the altcoins just, went with Bitcoin. If Bitcoin went down, altcoins went down. Nothing really, you didn't see anything going off on its own like you usually see when there's, strength in the market. And, even like, look at, I think it was Filecoin was up like 60%. Like, you're starting to see some momentum shift. And this is a telltale sign that, the market is changing. The confidence is coming back in the market. So the next thing I want to show you is the Bitcoin dominance chart. Now, this is something that I've been looking at, for the last 4 or 5 months now, and it just looks like it's ready to drop, and that's a good sign for altcoins too. So let's just zoom in. So this is Bitcoin Fuel. Bitcoin dominance is dropping hard, even during this Bitcoin dip, alt season happening. So this is a telltale sign for alt season, because if the Bitcoin dominance drops, that means that the money flows into the altcoins, right? So this dip down here, this is one of the first little alt season we had, right? And then we've kind of been consolidating here, but it looks like a bearish pattern, right? This looks like it's ready to fall. I mean, if this was any other chart for any other coin, I would think that you'd see another initial fall, right? So you gotta, look at it, Bitcoin dominance as if it's another coin or something, right? So this looks like a perfect setup for a short if it was any other coin. So as Bitcoin dominance falls, and I believe that it could fall even down to like 20, 28, 26%, and that would give some serious money into these altcoins. I'm telling you guys, there's in the other altcoin seasons we've had in the past, in 2018, 2017, there wasn't this much money involved in the market. So I'm telling you, this could be one of the biggest alt seasons we've ever seen. So like I'm saying, there's all these telltale signs that are telling a story here. Bitcoin dominance ready to fall. In the beginning of the video, the confidence coming back in this market, Bitcoin kind of showing some more, stabilized price action, where we've seen it slowly make higher highs, right, and higher lows. That's a good sign for the market. That's a good sign that there's, confidence coming back into this market. So when there's confidence in the market, retail investors and institutional investors are starting to feel more comfortable in putting money in this market, and you're seeing those altcoins that are been beaten down hard in the last 4.5 months. Obviously there's some big money to be made in those altcoins. You saw Bitcoin, you saw Ethereum, and some outliers of altcoins that have really made huge moves in the last year and a half. But it's those lagging altcoins that really didn't do much, right? Like XRP, like Algorand, like XLM. You really got to look at those altcoins that really have been doing nothing, that have been boring, right? When in this market, to really make money, you have to go after those boring assets that really haven't done anything but are still fundamentally strong assets, but just it hasn't had its time to shine yet. And those are the times where you really make money in this market, is when things, you're just looking at a coin that really hasn't done much and you're like, this thing really could pump. And if I get in at the lows here, then this is where I make the most money. People like to get into coins when they've already pumped and expect to make money, and that's just not the way it works, right? The whole point in this market is getting before the pump, right? So you got to look at some of these coins that really haven't done much in the last year and a half, because we just had a huge bull market, right? And like I said, you had the outliers like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana and Luna and FTM, and you saw those coins really do their thing. Dogecoin, but these other lagging alts, this is where I'm putting my money. Full disclosure, I'm ready. If there's an alt season coming, which I totally believe there is, these are the alts that I think are really going to have 20x, 50x. I mean, if you've been in this market long enough, you know how crazy these things can go. So, like I said, these are some of the factors I'm looking at. Now, if you look at just XRP's chart alone, I believe this is Dark Defender. Yeah, Dark Defender tweeted this out, and look at this chart here. So look at this, and this is something I've been looking at an XRP for a while now. This is the monthly chart, so this is a long-term chart, so long time frame. So monthly chart is a huge cup and handle, right? Just ready to blast off. And on the larger time frame, like the monthly, this thing could really blast up. My targets are anywhere from $7 to $10 on the short term, like in the next year, and then after that, I'm looking at and even Dark Defender is looking at anywhere from $50 to $100. So, a lot of people think it's crazy that $50 to $100 XRP is crazy, but with what Ripple's doing with XRP and what XRP is can do for the world, and the way that geopolitical events are all coming together, it's not too crazy to think that if XRP gets some real adoption, worldwide adoption, it's not crazy to think that this thing could really get up there into that 3-digit $100 level. But in the short term, like I said, in the next 6 months or so, I still see a target anywhere from $7 to $10, which is still a huge move for XRP, and that can happen very quickly. If you look at past bull markets, especially for XRP, that usually goes last in the market, and it usually goes very fast. I think it was in 26 days, it went from 23 cents all the way to $3.30, I believe it was. So I know the slow, grueling year to year price action is painful. I've been in this thing for 4.5 years in XRP, and we went from 23 cents, 20 cents or so, to $1. I think the high was $1.85 or $1.90 last spring. But this thing can happen very fast and can go from, right now we're sitting there at 84, 85 cents. This thing could get easily up to $6, $7, $10 in a month. So I know it seems tough going through these grueling sideways price action, up and down, because it's it can really grab your emotion. But you got to take the emotion out and understand that you just have to play the game, the patience game, and sit back and just wait for this thing to happen, because it will happen. And it's looking like I said in this video, all these telltale signs are just coming together all as one, and it's looking like alt season is really coming. And like I said, this alt season might be the biggest one yet. And I don't have the chart pulled up, but the DXY, to the dollar index, is hit a serious resistance point, right? And so you have all these factors. If Bitcoin dominance falls, if you have the DXY falling, that leaves a lot of money on the table to flow into these altcoins. So all I'm saying, not financial advice, obviously, but get ready, put your ducks in order, dollar cost average into some of these coins, and be ready to seriously have a huge altcoin season. So the last thing I want to show you guys in this video is this interview that Digital Asset Investor put out there. Her name is Dr. Pippa Malmgren. She's the daughter of Harold Malmgren, who was the senior aide to Richard Nixon back when they took the dollar off the gold standard. And she breaks down how the stock market basically was created, and how basically we're getting ready for the whole great reset, right? There's so much debt, pile on debt, in all these big banks and corporations and institutions, that there needs to be a reset, right? They need to just basically tear down this old system and create the new one. Now, just listen to this interview, which I know it's about 5 minutes long, but it's very interesting. It's very important. I believe everybody should listen to it. So let's just, if you guys could bear with me and listen to this interview, we'll break it down after.
is a game changer if national governments are going to get behind cryptocurrencies. Where does this take us?
Totally. And I think it's a massive market and geopolitical issue. I've written a little article about this, actually, which I put up on LinkedIn, where I said, you got to understand, if the size of your debt problem is so big that it can't be paid off, and in fact, even inflation, which is the usual way you would seek to default on your debt slowly over time, you can't get enough inflation generated, then there is one further option, and that is you literally abandon the entire system of money and accounting. And I know that sounds unbelievably radical, but we've seen it happen before. And I explained the example of Britain in 1834, when they abandoned the traditional system they'd used for 1,000 years at that time, which was called the tally stick system. And so when we say we tally things up, or the word stock market refers to the use of little wooden stocks. They were literally pieces of wood on which you would record every transaction during your life, every borrowing, every lending deal, every asset acquisition, every tax payment. And so since that had, the way it worked was literally a wooden board. You cracked it in half really roughly so the two sides definitely did match and couldn't be faked. And then the borrower and the lender each marked all their transactions. And the stock end was always the smaller end, right? So that's where we get stock market. There was a market in the stocks, these little wooden sticks. Anyway, bottom line was, why would you abandon a system that's worked perfectly beautifully for 1,000 years? And the answer is, you had 200 years of war debts that had accumulated. They were unable to get inflation up enough without causing social unrest. And so the government said, hey, let's actually take the tally sticks back and give people this great new innovation called paper money. Now you can imagine, everybody's like, what, I'm going to hand over this record, this ledger of my entire net worth, and you're going to give me a piece of paper? Really? Like, this is a joke. So in the end, what the government had to do was actually confiscate the tally sticks, and they took them to Parliament to burn them, and they misjudged how much heat the fire would throw off, and that is what caused Parliament to burn to the ground in 1834. It was the destruction of the system of accounting and money, and in its place, we adopted what we now use, which is a piece of paper we call cash. Now today, we're on the brink of a similar step change, and the way you'll do it is you're going to move to electronic money in conjunction with blockchain. Blockchain is the new ledger, and e-money is the new currency. The question is, whose e-money? So everybody in government circles have been watching the Indian experience because the prime minister stepped up to the platform in early November and basically said, okay, we're going to move all of you, 1 billion people, off paper money and onto electronic money, and we're going to do it in 3 months. Well, they did it, and they did it successfully. And so now governments everywhere are saying, hey, we want to do that because guess what happens when you move to e-money? First of all, you really eliminate the black market because you can't transact anymore without it being seen. And so, for example, the European Union are talking heavily about let's move to electronic money because then all this black market activity that happens in Greece and Italy where there's no tax, we'll be able to get all that tax revenue off it. And so that's one reason. The second reason is with blockchain, you have total transparency over every single step of a transaction, complete provenance of every single transaction. Now, the question is, who gets to see it? And I think this is where governments are suddenly a little schizo, because on the one side, they think they are going to have the ability to see every transaction that you and I and all the listeners are engaged in. But Ethereum has created this platform where actually it won't necessarily be in government's hands. It may be in private hands. And the question is, can you trust the private hands who are issuing ethers as much or more or less than you trust governments? And so governments are beginning to say, well, let's create our own version. And that's where you get the PBOC saying, we got to control this. Because otherwise, you're going to end up with private sector currencies that possibly are trusted more than government currencies. And that will lead to transactions offline that governments can't see. So there was a report going around the internet recently about some guy made he made $200 million trading on Ethereum in a month. And the question is, well, who will tax that? And the answer is nobody. Well, that freaks governments out, to say the least, particularly given their debt situation. So I think this is a huge, huge thing, and all investors have to think very carefully about it. I'll say one last thing about it. you've got to get familiar with quantum computing. And there's loads of stuff on the net about it, but the reason that it matters is because of the speed at which you can process information. We now have quantum computers. The Chinese apparently have the fastest. There's D-Wave out of British Columbia, but basically you can break a blockchain password or a Bitcoin password in like less than a minute if you have a quantum computer. So the question is, who's going to have them? And the answer is mainly governments, but big corporations are buying them like crazy. Volkswagen just bought one. We're going to see major corporations buying that computing power. And the question then is, okay, who has most transparency over the blockchain and e-money? And I would argue it's going to be whoever has the most and fastest processing power, which may be governments at times, it may be private at times, it may be fluid. And that's what we have to think about as investors.
So that was very interesting, wasn't it? So, as we look into the future here and how blockchain is going to be used and how quantum computers are going to be used, this is where it's going to make or break either Bitcoin or whoever is going to win out in the market. Can it be secure enough? It's always been about security. Bitcoin Bitcoin maxis will say that proof of work system is the most secure system out there. Others say maybe the consensus mechanism that XRP uses is more secure. We'll see, right? When quantum computers come out, as they kind of already are, but when they're actually used, we will really see how secure these blockchains are. And that's something that's going to be, a telltale sign of how this, this new technology is going to be used in the future. So just thought that was very interesting, and talking about how, all this debt has been building up. And this is not the first time it's happening. If you look back in history, and I'm a huge student of history, if you look back in history with currencies, they've only lasted about 100 years at a time, right? So we're getting to that 100-year mark now with the dollar. And, are we going digital? It seems like we are. So how is that going to work? We're in 30, just our country alone is in $30 trillion in debt. How are we going to get out of that debt? I mean, obviously, digital assets can help that. And I believe that's the route we are going. And, the term the Great Reset is kind of thrown around as just conspiracy theory, but it's really not anymore. And if you do your research, you'll understand that this is totally not a conspiracy theory anymore. This is going to happen. When it's going to happen, I think that COVID, and I hate to say that word because they're going to ban me on YouTube, but the C-19 and everything happening in the last couple of years, I think it kind of fast tracked this happening even faster than we thought. So, this is very interesting. This is why I'm in this space. It's a growing technology, a growing space. Every couple months or so, we get new information, and it's such an exciting space to be in. So if you're watching the video, you're here for a reason too. And I believe it's that it just this new technology, it's a new asset class in our lifetime that just doesn't happen for most people, right? When do you have a new asset class that's just developed in your lifetime? It just doesn't happen. Hope you guys are taking advantage of it. I'm taking advantage of it. The last thing I want to show you guys in this video is just a quick tweet that I saw that just shows you the income inequality and what's happening in this country. Also due to obviously in the last 2 years. So today, this is Alf on Twitter. Today, the 10 richest people in the world control $1.3 trillion in wealth. That's insane, by the way. So 2 years ago, just 2 years ago, this number was around 663 billion. So 2 years ago, the richest 10 people owned $663 billion in wealth. Just 2 years later, they doubled, more than doubled, to 1.3 trillion in wealth. Arguably, these levels of wealth concentrations won't be politically and socially acceptable for long. So, this is why you're seeing, obviously a dumb bill that they're trying to put tax rate, the unrealized gains for people that make over 100 million. That is not the solution at all. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But obviously, there needs to be something done. To double your wealth in 2 years. And then you're watching everybody else, the rest of the 90% struggling due to inflation. You think inflation is affecting these 10 billionaires? Obviously not. So we need something to happen. I don't know what it is, but hopefully, that's why crypto, I think, is going to be that level playing field aspect where we can finally, give some people a chance to find financial freedom, right? That's why I got in crypto. I think that's why most people got into crypto, is because they wanted to find a way to find that financial freedom without, working your ass off for the rest of your life just to pay bills, right? Just to survive, you have to work. I was working anywhere from 80 to 90 hours a week just to pay the bills. It's insane. It shouldn't be that way. There should be better ways, better systems. So I think that's where crypto comes in and helps the average person make it in the world and to realize that American dream that we've always been striving for, forever. But I'll end the video there, guys. Just remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. But remember, I'm not a financial advisor. Please do not take anything I write or say as financial advice. This is for educational purposes only. And thanks, guys, and we'll see you on the next one.